my name is Kat, and today I want to review and discuss Carry On by Rowell. So this is a fantasy novel that's inspired by the fictional fantasy series we saw in Fangirl. We follow a teenage boy named Simon Snow who goes to this magical school, and according to many prophecies, he is the chosen one. But according to his roommate slash arch nemesis Baz, he is the worst chosen one to ever be chosen. He can't control his powers, and he doesn't really think, he just jumps into action, and more often than not, when he tries to help, he just ends up destroying things. There's a war going on, actually there's several wars going on, and there's magic and politics and prophecies and kissing and ghosts and sass, and oh my god, I loved this book so much. Just last month I said The Queen of Shadows was my favorite book of the year so far, and now this one is. This is one of my favorite books of all time now, and I mean at the very top of the list. As soon as I finished it the first time, I started flipping through and reading parts of it again, so I decided to just read it through again. So I did that, I finished it, and then I started flipping through and reading parts of it again, and now I'm on my third reread of it, and it's been out for a week. I can't really describe why I love this book so much, or how much I love it. I love it. I wasn't expecting this. Like, I have other books to read, I have other things to do in my life, but I just keep picking this book up and reading through it, reading chapters again, or flipping back to the beginning and reading it straight through again. If someone were to ask me right now what my favorite book of all time is, I feel like I would have to say this one because I'm obsessed with it. Now, for those of you wondering, no, you do not need to read Fangirl to read this one, like, at all. Even though it's kind of the same characters that we briefly saw in Fangirl, it's a whole new take on them. You know, in Fangirl we saw Kath's take on Simon and Baz, and the original author Gemma T. Leslie's take on Simon and Baz, but this is Rowell's take on Simon and Baz, and it is a completely different style and voice than anything we saw in Fangirl. If you liked those excerpts in Fangirl, then you'll probably like this, but if you didn't like those excerpts or you haven't read Fangirl, you still might like this because it's different. It's a totally different feel. Personally, I enjoyed the Simon Snow bits in Fangirl, but there were times when I felt like it was too silly or too much of a parody. But that's not the case with this book at all. It's not ridiculous or over the top, it's just charmingly whimsical. And the way it blends this fantasy world with the modern world was just wonderful. The characters talk like modern teenagers in a contemporary novel, and there's pop culture references and technology, and it was just so much fun. It kind of feels like the most glorious blend of Harry Potter-ish and Rainbow Rowell-ish, and it was beautiful. Obviously, I highly recommend this book. It's so funny and so cool and so everything good. Like, I already really related to Kath from Fangirl, but now I really, really relate to her. I just want to read this book over and over again, and I want to read and write Simon and Baz fanfiction, and I want fan art all over my walls so I can look at it all day. I'm obsessed. I am obsessed. But yeah, that is gonna be it for the spoiler-free section of this video, so if you have not yet read this book, then you gotta go do so, because I have a lot of things I want to discuss in the spoilery section, which is happening now. So if you haven't read this book, leave. Bye! Okay, let's do this. I'm so excited about this book. So excited. I'm going to start at the beginning. So the book starts, and like 15 pages in, I am already in love with Baz. Because we're seeing through Simon's point of view, and Simon thinks about him all the freaking time. Simon is obsessed with Baz, even if he doesn't quite admit it, and because of that, I am obsessed with Baz. So I can't wait for Baz to show up, and it's driving me crazy. Like, those 150 pages without him were just like, where is he? When is he gonna get here? It was killing me. And then when he shows up, it's just everything I ever wanted. I love Baz so much. Like, he's my favorite character. His point of view was my favorite to be in because he's so snarky and funny, and he's in love with Simon, and god! But I'm nervous because while Baz is completely in love with Simon and Simon is totally obsessed with Baz, I don't know if it's gonna work out. I don't know if there's romantic feelings there in Simon's obsession. So I'm nervous, and I know it's a love story. Rainbow made it very clear that this was a love story, but whose love story? Especially early on, I was like, are we going in a Simon and Agatha direction, or maybe a Simon and Penny direction? I didn't know, and it was making me really anxious. And then we start getting the cute Simon and Baz stuff, and oh my god! Pretty much the entire book 3 section, I just couldn't handle myself, like internally screaming and occasionally externally screaming because it was just, oh my god. When they go up against the dragon and they discover the sharing magic thing, and like Baz is the only one who can handle Simon's magic, and they do the twinkle twinkle little star thing, and it was so cute, and Baz is getting like power drunk on Simon's magic, and oh my god. And then Baz invites Simon to Christmas, and Simon's just like, you are completely mad. But then the moment he finds out about Nico, he just goes straight to Baz. Like, no phone call, no thinking about Penny, he just hops on a train and he's like, I must get to Baz. And of course, once he's there, he just has to stay in Baz's room with him because that's like the only place he can fall asleep. And they go to see the vampires, and Baz is just so cool. And then we get to the kiss. The moment when they're in the woods and Baz lit fire all around and he's like getting ready to light himself aflame. And I was still so nervous at this point because I don't know how Simon is feeling, and Baz is getting ready to kiss him, and I'm like not sure how it's going to go over, but then Simon kisses him and I just almost threw my book across the room in a fit of flailing. I loved that scene. I can't handle how much I love Simon and Baz together. And like after the kiss, everything has changed, but nothing has changed. Baz is still being snarky and mean, and Simon is just grinning all the time, and he's so happy, and they're so cute. I love it. When Baz starts calling him Simon instead of Snow, and like they keep kissing, and Baz is like, you know we're still mortal enemies, and Simon's just like, or not. Agatha and Penny come over for the debriefing, and Simon leaves with them, and I'm worried. I'm like, oh no, I want them to stay together. When are they gonna be together again? But then Simon goes back like right away. He jumps out of the car and he like just runs back to Baz, and Baz is so closed off about his feelings. Like, he will readily admit to himself that he's completely in love with Simon, but he's still like mean to Simon, and he's like, no, I didn't want you to kiss me. Why would I want that? But Simon is so open about his feelings, and he's like, I want this. I prefer this to fighting. I want to be your terrible boyfriend, and I love it. I love it. Okay, let's take a break from all of the fangirling to talk about the other stuff that happened in this book, because it wasn't only the romance. One thing that I wasn't expecting to love as much as I did was the magic system. In Fangirl, it just seemed silly and kind of ridiculous. But learning more about it and how it's like the power of words and language and phrases that get used a lot, I just thought it was really creative and cool. And once it was explained, it didn't feel silly anymore. It felt realistic and grounded. I also really loved the politics. Like, that was another aspect that really kept the story grounded. You have these opposing political sides that have their own point of view and their own strong belief in why their point of view is right. And the mage! Okay, let's talk about the mage. Did anyone else totally picture Carrie Elwes circa Robin Hood Men in Tights as the mage? Because I couldn't get that image out out of my head. Like, if this ever gets made into a movie and he doesn't play the mage, I'm gonna be kind of disappointed. The mage was a really interesting character because he's completely mad, but he's not completely wrong. Like, it's a good thing that he wanted to give more power and a voice to the less powerful. It was a good thing that he opened up the school to accept anyone with magical ability, not just these rich families that have been going there forever. He has some good ideas, but not some good methods of getting there. He really only cares about his ultimate vision. He's very the ends justify the means. It's hard to completely hate him, but it's also hard to like him. And finding out he was Simon's father and that he made him as a tool, not really as a son, it was heartbreaking. That's something that I really felt more on the second and third reads of this book. Like, the first read, I was mostly just laughing and happy. But the rereads made me realize how sad it all is. Like, I'm heartbroken for Simon losing his magic and for never finding out the truth about his mom and dad. I'm sad for Eb and her brother who never even got to see her again, and for Baz and his whole situation with his mom and his struggles growing up as a vampire and secretly in love with Simon. But I kind of liked that we had that balance of sadness to go along with all the happiness, because that's my favorite kind of story. The kind that is mostly happy and funny and lighthearted, but there is some darker stuff threaded in there. And like every other Rainbow Rowell book, there are still some lingering questions at the end there. Like, we did get a nice, long, beautiful epilogue, so I do feel completely satisfied with this book. But Simon never finds out the truth about his parents, and he never pieces together that it was his mom who visited him the second time. Agatha thinks Lucy escaped to California when really she died, and I still have some questions about that actually. It didn't seem like she died during childbirth. It seemed like she was alive when that was over, so how did she die? Did she try to run away from the mage? Did he kill her? What happened there? Just what happened there? I could definitely go for more with these characters in this world. Like, I would actually love that. I love that. Especially because I'm very curious to see what happens to Simon. Like, the whole restoration thing really got me thinking. The dead spots might get their magic back someday. So, is there a possibility that Simon could get magic back someday? He's not normal. He should have magic, controllable magic, and I would love to see that. I thought Rainbow did a really good job of bringing us into this already established world with all of these already established relationships. The only thing I would have liked to see a little bit more of is Simon and the mage's relationship when things were still good. Like, the mage seemed helpful enough in the beginning, trying to fix Simon and protect him, but I never really trusted him or saw in him the hero that Simon does. But I loved all of the references to previous interactions these characters have had and like their first meetings. Like Penny and Simon, and how Penny's parents had warned her that, you know, nobody knows where he came from and he could be dangerous, and that just excites Penny. She like wants to be his friend because nobody knows where you came from and you could be dangerous. I really liked Baz and Penny's friendship as well, how they're like nerding out over magic and comparing their top 10 spells from the 1800s, and how Penny counts herself as having 3 friends, but then later Baz says that she has 2.5 friends, and like, does he count himself as the half a friend? Like, he's only half her friend? That is so like Baz. There were just so many great little things too, like how Simon has the list of things that he loves and misses from school, and football is on there even though he doesn't play, but Baz does, and Simon always goes to practice to watch Baz play. The whole roommate anathema, and how anytime Baz and Simon were arguing and things were about to get physical, they would warn each other about the anathema, not because they were afraid of getting hurt, but because they were afraid of the other one getting kicked out of school. I loved all the minor characters and everyone's family, Penny's parents and siblings, and Baz Baz's family, like his little sister, when he's threatening that he's gonna like block all the chimneys so Father Christmas can't come, and his Aunt Natasha, who won't let him sit in the front seat because the front seat is for people who haven't been kidnapped by fucking numpties. And so many quotes, so many lines of dialogue or internal monologue, especially coming from Baz. Like, if I were to read you guys a list of all of my favorite Baz quotes, it would be like half the book, and this video would be 6 hours long. But one that I really loved because it just cracked me up was when Baz was telling Simon the truth about Agatha, but Simon was still upset over it, and Baz is just like, fine, I will marry her, and we'll have the best looking children in all of magical history, and we'll name them all Simon just to get under your skin. And when he's thinking about kissing Simon, and he's like, his lips are just hanging open, mouth breather. Good use of parentheses in this book. Parentheses on point. I loved when Baz cast the spell on Love's light wings that only works if you're stupidly in love. And when Baz is comforting Simon at the very end and he's like, don't worry, I'm gonna turn you into a vampire and make you live with me forever. And in the epilogue when he's like threatening / promising to haunt his doorstep day and night, I love this book so much. Like, I just want to read it again and again and again. But for now, I think that's just about everything I wanted to talk about in this video today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great night, and I will have another video up soon, so I will see you then. Goodbye!